This is not a video on power levels. I am judging these three characters based on the fact that Dragon Ball is a complete work and that each of these do compare to each other because they are from the very same series, and that by virtue, Frieza has to compare to what has come before him, Cell has to compare to Frieza, and that Buu has to compare to Cell, and so on. In doing it this way, Buu has the toughest act out of all three of them because in a long-running narrative, the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to be unique and interesting compared to what came before, and it becomes easier to lose the audience's interest by way of meddling with the characters or setting in ways that the audience doesn't buy into or respect. By these criteria, I think Buu is the best of the three big transforming villains Dragon Ball is known for. Buu presents a level of threat that is basically only matched by Demon King Piccolo and the Saiyans. Who is Buu? Buu is the nail, not the hammer. Babidi is, and Bibidi before him. Buu is interesting because he's the concept of Staff Officer Black taken to its logical conclusion if he was the strongest and most threatening villain in the franchise. Officer Black is a throwaway antagonist at the end of the Red Ribbon Army arc for what is in all intents and purposes a joke that is wrapped up in a page or two. Black was only following Red because he thought he was going to wish for the Red Ribbon Army to take over the world, so when he found out his superior's wish was bullshit, he slimed him out, only to get slimed out by Goku like 5 minutes later. Buu is the real deal. His story starts when he betrays his superior, not ends. Buu is one of the only villains portrayed as outright juvenile or stupid. Every other serious villain is exactly that, serious. Each of them, whether it be Tao, Piccolo, Vegeta, Frieza, Gero, Cell, the list goes on, are depicted as intelligent, menacing, resourceful, or as having resources. Buu basically has nothing to go off of other than his own desires and the fact that he's pretty uninformed and easily manipulated. Because of this, Buu gets to go in a lot of different directions and explore what an antagonist is, much more so than Frieza. I liken Cell to a more video gamey feel, and what I mean by this is that it doesn't make all that much sense for Gero to create an imperfect being on the face of it, but these kind of things are compelling in a video game format. The concept of growth or level ups. In Dragon Ball, we know the characters get stronger, but the way it's portrayed in Cell's case really is like a level up screen. If he absorbs 17, he meets the criteria and levels up. If he absorbs 18, he reaches level cap. In a video game context, it's fun to play, but in a story, by the nature of storytelling fundamentals, you need to fire Chekhov's gun or it's not going to be satisfying. In a game, you as the player get to choose to go all the way or deliberately hold back and perform a challenge run. As a consequence for adhering to this storytelling fundamental, to allow Cell the chance to level up, the participating characters perform some of the most bewildering and out-of-character moments to allow Cell to transform. It trades one satisfying moment, Cell becoming perfect, for a cascade of really unsatisfying and hard-to-watch moments by some of your favorite characters. Frieza is great until he starts fighting because he maintains this authority figure role so much better than Commander Red ever did. He's on the front lines and pointing at who needs to die, and he's better at the authority role than Piccolo because while Piccolo was this organized world-conquering threat, it was over before it really began and the audience doesn't get to see much. But in the Frieza arc, we get to see how much influence Frieza possesses, but the idea of Frieza is much better than what we actually see from Frieza while fighting, because when he's fighting, he carries the torch that Vegeta was bearing and that Piccolo was before him. All three of these characters, although each different in their specificities, share a core character trait, born better narcissism. Piccolo believes all humans are beneath demons, Vegeta believes all Saiyans that aren't him are inferior because of his nobility and class, and Frieza believes all life is beneath him because there has been no equal. They each believe so for their own reasons, but how they conduct themselves reads much the same. Frieza doesn't even need to transform because there is no cost-benefit analysis, no goal to achieve, and it does not tie into any character arc. And in fact, him transforming only hurts the storytelling because it is the true origin point for the ever-increasing and immeasurable power levels. The only reason Frieza even has transformations, drama, and stakes is undercut by the fact that his subordinate, Zarbon, did it first and arguably did it better. Zarbon wants to maintain his beauty, and a level of savagery comes out in him that is not present in his normal form. All it does is add drama, which is not nothing, but the drama was amazing when it was informed by characters and their choices, not this arbitrary and unpredictable increasing in stakes. Vegeta even asks Frieza to transform, kind of admitting narratively that these stages are inconsequential because they don't mean anything since Frieza can activate them at will. Cell is intensely compelling and unique, but at the very end he drops the ball because this ultra-narcissistic better-than-you attitude is the 4th time it's happened. Piccolo did it first, followed by Vegeta, culminating in Frieza, and then dumped onto Cell after the fact. It's only so frustrating because of Cell's cunning and mystery element that is not present in the other 3, so we take a standout character with a great introduction and then make him generic at the finish line. Another thing that's frustrating about Cell is that he has the potential to execute on this evolutionary storyline by potentially being weaker than the protagonists and then growing stronger over the course of the story, but that doesn't ever get off the ground because he's a match for strength with Piccolo in his introduction. Frieza's transformations are totally separate and the protagonists have no influence on the outcome of them narratively because Frieza can choose to do so at any time. Cell's functions can interact with the protagonists, but he doesn't show any change by absorbing anything that isn't expressly related to Dr. Gero's plan. Buu is the best transforming villain because he wears them on his sleeve. You get immediate and strong visuals on each stage of Buu's progression, and his transformations have the potential to interact with the other characters. Buu has the most compelling beginning, middle, and end out of the 3, while also maintaining his uniqueness in comparison to the rest of the villains before. Buu starts out as a plot device that turns into a henchman character that then achieves his own agency after having a conversation with the protagonist Son Goku. After this, he turns into a childlike monster that is only after his own interests. He only stops because he is appreciated for what he's done for a blind kid, which was essentially done on accident, and Buu then has to grapple with the reality that making others happy is one of his own interests. Further still, Majin Buu forms a relationship with Mr. Satan, and Toriyama makes something of this duo, not just allowing these secondary characters to go to waste. Buu has an arc all of his own and manages to tell stories that go beyond the scope of combat. When the true villain of the Dragon Ball franchise, the piece of shit rat bastard Van Zant, shoots his dog, the story expands again and follows the transformation trope set up by Frieza and Cell, but then executes it in such a brilliant way. It's set up in the lore of the story that Kami and Piccolo were once one being, and that Kami needed to cast out his darkness in order to become the protector of Earth. This world-building detail evokes such rich feelings of that high fantasy martial arts wuxia vibe. And as a result, I totally buy into this interaction here where Buu is so pissed off that he banishes his evil in much the same way as Kami did. Instead of this feeling like a contractual obligation where the stakes are raised so that we can facilitate a fight, it is a natural byproduct of character interactions and world building and once again provides movement to Buu's character. Frieza is an incredibly static character and Cell only has this linear video gamey movement that isn't as fluid. When evil Buu defeats good Buu, Super Buu is created. Super Buu is somewhat dim-witted like Fat Buu before him, but tinged in all this dogged aggressiveness that wasn't there before. Each version of Buu builds on the last. I love that by absorbing others, he gains perspective and intelligence. Look at this fucking line, bro. One of my favorite moments in all of Dragon Ball is when Super Buu chastises Gohan and says that Goten is wondering why his brother let this happen to him. It's such a wow moment because Dragon Ball very rarely goes that far with these deeper emotionalities for the characters.
All right, it's time to show you why my little brother looks up to me.
He doesn't. In fact, he wonders why you let me take him.
And then after that, Super Buu turns into Kid Buu. Toriyama doesn't even give this guy dialogue, it is all physical storytelling and body language. Each transformation is meaningfully different and brings out differing aspects of Buu's personality. But Buu allows other characters to shine in a way where Frieza and Cell are reductive characters. Frieza and Cell place characters beneath them to appear more potent as villains. Vegeta does not win this fight against Kid Buu, but it is one of the most iconic moments in the entire franchise.
What's so funny, freak? What are you gawking at? What did you think, huh? That I was gonna roll over and die from an attack like that? You're nothing, just a trickster. I am a warrior, the Saiyan Prince, Vegeta!
It's also important to state that Toriyama started out as a comedy gag author. Majin Buu plays into his skill set in a way not echoed in Frieza nor Cell, Vegeta, Raditz, Piccolo, and so on. Buu is equal parts threatening and silly. All other joke characters are disarmed by their silly nature and never presented as credible threats the same way Buu is. That's what makes him work so well and feel so unique in Dragon Ball's landscape of antagonists. And if any of this doesn't convince you, Buu literally blows up Earth, kills everyone on the planet, including the entire supporting cast, and he attempts to run the Fade with them again in the afterlife. Buu is so potent as a villain that the climax of the storyline has to happen on another world because the Earth doesn't exist anymore. All this while he's Fortnite dancing on you. This character is so sick, dude. Buu by far has the best climax out of the three because he's so strong that he not only fights back against the Spirit Bomb, but starts winning. Toriyama's commitment to dramatic potential needs to be studied because so many action authors don't do this correctly. The finale also pulls out Vegeta's character arc, delivers fantastic moments for Mr. Satan to be the hero and redeem himself for lying about Cell. The climax finds a place for the Kais and has one of the best uses of the Dragon Balls in the entire franchise. They don't wish the threat away, they wish Goku back to full strength so he can put Buu away on his own terms. This combines the storytelling elements instead of keeping them separate. Goku melancholically hoping for Majin Buu to come back someday adds a nail of mysticism and martial arts into the story one final time. And this full circle moment is so excellent because the Genki gathered for the Spirit Bomb results in cameos from characters that haven't been present in the work for years to add a sense of finality to the proceedings. Amazing, impeccable work. For all its flaws, and the Buu saga has quite a few, there is no secret. Dragon Ball became a worldwide phenomenon because it really is that good. Alright, enough of the glazing. I started this video by saying that Buu had the toughest job out of all three of them by virtue of being the last act in a long-running series, so had the greatest potential to fuck up. But Buu also had the greatest benefit. He was the third transforming villain, and so Toriyama had two design drafts to draw from so as to execute the concept with greater success. In fairness, Buu does have something the others lacked, which would be author experience. And additionally, Buu does necessitate the solvent combat style approach where it's all about finding some solution that is powerful enough to stop him. Whether it be fusion, the Z-Sword, Elder Kai unlocking Gohan's potential, the Potara earrings, and so on. In my opinion, the reason Buu works so well is simply because he matches Toriyama's expertise in whimsical storytelling style while still being able to deliver dramatic combat scenarios, and they are very varied in comparison to Frieza and Cell.